All right, everybody. We are just about ready to get started with our first semifinal matchup in the ABSP Masters Melee. This is a online only event that is being played on our new Scrabble mobile app. And if you're curious, what is this event? What is the ABSP Masters Melee? How has this been going on without my knowledge? Well, it's because it is an invitational event that was outreached to 12 elite UK based top expert players. These players competed first in a 10 game group stage event where the top two players in each group of six advanced into a match play bracket. So we have some nice prizes on offer. The winner's going to get $500. Runner up in the finals gets 250, and our two semifinalists today, which is, of course, the aforementioned, I'm not actually sure I mentioned yet, Brian Poe versus Phil Robertshaw. Brian, an elite UK expert, a winner of a major tournament earlier this year, and Phil, I think, a multi-time UK national Scrabble champion. So two absolutely phenomenal players. And then, waiting on the other side of the bracket, of course, two more phenomenal players in Harshan Lamabadu Surya versus Lukman Owalabi, and that match will take place on Wednesday. So, pretty close to being ready to get started here, but before we do, just want to note that again, this is a new Scrabble app. If you are based out of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or the Philippines, you can get your hands on this app right now. If you're from anywhere else in the world, you have to sit tight for a little longer until you can get your hands on this app. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. It is a classic no frills Scrabble app. Every day I'm making daily puzzles that I think are pretty enjoyable. Not sure if anyone out there that has the app already can attest to whether you're enjoying my puzzles. I put some energy and I think they're pretty fun to do. And of course, unlike Scrabble Go, this game does have post-game review, which is pretty nice. So yeah, it's pretty good. I think it's going to be exciting. And if you're in the UK right now, you can get your hands on it using the link in the pinned comment on YouTube. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and our players are standing by. Of course, I have to make it look a little better. But Brian, feel free. Brian has the first move in the match. And we're going to let Brian get started. And I'm going to mute myself on the Zoom call where all three of us are. And let me see. There we go. So we are underway here. Hopefully everybody can see everything okay. I know that, just for the record, everybody, I know that the screen is flickering on and off as I'm going to start Brian's clock here now. But haven't been able to fix that. And okay, so Brian is going to exchange, and he's going to say he's sure. And he draws EG, and we're going to stop his clock. So Phil is now going to get the game request from Brian, and we should be off to the races in short order. So let's see what Phil draws. Wow, look at that. Blanks for both players in the early going here. So I am going to try to do a whole bunch of rolls at once here. Wait a second. He had CERS blank. And exchanging CV, clearly the correct play, even drawing EG, which is not that great. Brian is very likely to bingo, but he's not going to get the first bingo of the game. Phil is going to do that, and we'll start his clock here now. So, yeah, as we get underway, if any of you out there see any kind of weirdness other than the flickering, which we already know about, I really apologize for that. But if anybody sees any kind of weirdness or sees any kind of oddity with how the screen looks, please let me know. Again, I apologize for the flickers, but we should still be able to enjoy the match and see what we can do about getting that fixed in the future. So not sure if I'm seeing anybody watching on Facebook, but I see a bunch of you out there right now on YouTube. Thank you very much for stopping by the ABSP YouTube channel. And yeah, Phil's having a think. And now he's getting set. We'll see what he goes with here. And the only thing he's looking to do, of course, is to try to get a 3-point tile, either the P or the M, onto a double letter score. And Phil, there he goes, making his first play. We'll wait for Brian to get the bad news that Phil's going to get the first bingo of the game, but it's not going to be that bad because he's going to very quickly play Greases for 91. I'm going to tell Brian if possible. Hey guys, just coming off mute for a quick second. Brian, if you can go into the little menu on the bottom left of your game screen and turn off camera zoom, that would be perfect. Awesome. Yep, there you go. Nice. Thank you very much. All right, play on. Okay, so we got that fixed. So both players starting out with a bang here. No blanks to worry about for the rest of the game as we head back over to Phil. Put his clock on. Not as good of a rack, I would say. And 3 Ds for Brian. So we're definitely looking at not as useful racks moving forward here. But that was really, really fast by Brian to find his top scoring play. Putting that C on the triple letter score, 91 points. That was his theoretical maximum that he could get there. And yeah, it's back to Phil. He's got a couple of eyes. He's got to think. And by the way, if ever the flickering gets too much, I do have the ability to cut to this view. This is not ideal. I would love to be able to show the actual board, but this could be good to limit some of the flickering that's going on. So I may cut to this from time to time just to keep things a little bit smoother. But yeah, let's see if we can actually look at the app, which is supposed to be the showcase here. And we do have this view as well. You can see both players experimenting with their boards. So yeah, Phil's got a tricky decision on his hands here. Suggestion of potentially Mithy from the M on the board. That seems pretty good. Undoubling the eyes. Let's see if I can actually do this for you all. Have the telestrator as well. So that seems like a decent option, leaving the quite nicely balanced RIM with all kinds of good tiles to play through. If you're able to draw well, especially the S and E of Septime, that should be pretty good. So Phil has no real standout option. And now he has identified that play, it looks like. Yeah, nice spot. Seems like that is what Phil is going to go with here. There we go. That's his play. And drawing decently well. But the W, maybe not what he wants to see. So good play. Now it's back over to Brian. So we'll start his clock here. And yeah, this is a tough one. Definitely going to want to use 2 Ds if at all possible. Oop. Oh. Yeah, sorry. I gotta show you guys. Brian already has identified a great way, I think, of doing that. Doesn't score a ton, but he had odd on the board right here. He's gonna go back to it. No reason to wait. This is a strong play. 23 points. Leaves just 1 of the 3 Ds on his rack. That seemed like a really, really good option as we go back to Phil. Nice, close game in the early going. Hopefully, other than the flickers, you guys can hear me okay. I see the scores are a little off. I'll get that fixed right now. Should be pretty easy fix. There we go. A little fuzzy, but should be legible. Hey, Penumbra, nice to see you. Hey, Eric. Hey, Lewis. Hey, Natalie. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by. So, yeah, sorry. Let's start Phil's clock here. We want to give a little buffer, at least, for the... little bit of buffer for the... nice. Actually, I think I'm going to close this. You know what I need to do? I need to close down my Discord People could be trolling me right now by sending me messages on Discord, and you guys would hear that, but not now. I closed it down. So suggestion of just Mew. Yeah, this seems solid. So it looks like that is Phil's thought, is to play Mew, leaving the dynamite leave of DEIR. Again, the board is so nice for bingos. There's so many good bingo tiles available. So seems reasonable. That's going to be Phil's pick. Suggestion also potentially playing REIM for more points, leaving the W on the rack. You do get 38 points for that, so it's pretty good. Brian's cycling through a couple good options in a hurry. Both players extremely close to bingoing here. So I'll start Brian's clock here. Brian playing Zell. Very, very solid play for him. Maybe a possibility of even just keeping the L off. Does the L improve that leave enough that only one extra point? Is that something you would even want? But still a very solid play. And back over to Phil. He's got Erudite lined up on his rack. And not much else, surprisingly. And Brian has great bingo tiles as well. So both players are going to be bingoing in a hurry, I would assume. A Droiter to the R of Greases. And maybe Terratoid doesn't quite fit. Is it possible that... Is Brian just looking at playing to the R of Greases, or does he have something else? Am I insane? Oh, Asteroid, of course. Asteroid, of course. So yeah, couple options for Brian, but it is Phil's turn. Let me start that clock up. And he's thinking about Sureteed, which is also playable off of that S. Surprising, because Erudite, Phil had Erudite lined up on his rack, and that plays alongside here. So he could go for Erudite in potentially a safer way, but he's going with Sureteed. He clearly saw Erudite there. So I wonder if that's simply a miss of the overlaps. But either way, still nice to get a bingo, because unbeknownst to Phil, Brian is definitely on the verge of getting one himself here. And he is quickly going to play a Droiter to keep pace. No need to waste any time. He has slapped it down in a hurry. Didn't even get a chance to really run the clock. So I'll give Phil a little bit of grace period here. But yeah, nice game here in the early going. Both players trading blows in the exact fashion that you would expect from two players at this level. Two really strong players. Brian has been rising rapidly on the scene. I'll start Phil's clock now. Actually, I could do better at framing Phil too. Hold on. Phil is slightly off camera. There we go. There's more of Phil. That you guys will be able to see his thinking face. Yeah, Brian winning the first major tournament in the UK this year, and I think also with a strong performance in the second one. But Phil has been at the top of the UK scene for quite a while, one of the top players. So yeah, no surprise here. Sam says, like my little cameo. Yes, he's got to start that game. Clearly, has to start that game sometime soon. But yeah, we're seeing Sam, another one of our tournament competitors who narrowly missed. Only a game or two away from potentially making it out of Group 1, which was a really tough group. It was pretty stacked. There were a lot of great players competing in this event. So I really appreciate everybody with the ABSP for having an open mind. This is a little different. There we see a look at the tracking screen, which I am proud to say I had a large hand in designing. So if you like the new tracking screen in the new app, I wouldn't say you have to thank me, but I was in part responsible for that. So I think it looks a little better. Just being able to see all the tiles at a glance. So anyway, over to Phil. What is he going to do? This is tough. He's got an S, which is always a nice letter to keep. He's thinking about potentially just going for his highest scoring play. I think he's seeing if he can put his F here and play something down. The only way to do that really is to play Fouds, which maybe he doesn't want to either give up his S here, or does he not want to leave 3 vowels? So there are a couple different considerations at play for why you might not want to do that. But on the other hand, it gets 39 points, which is quite a lot, which is more than he can get for almost any other type of play here. Instead, he is potentially getting set to play Fado 27. That is the play. So that is really clever. I just want to point out, why not Fido, as we see that Phil drew really, really poorly after that play, but there was only 1 A on the board. So Phil had a much better chance of duplicating his A than he did his I. There were only a few other I's. So I think Phil was aware of that when he played Fado over Fido. That being said, that draw is not going to do much for him no matter what. That is a rough draw, and it is back over to Brian. Let's start that clock up again. Need the platform explained. Yeah, this is a new app. Sorry, I explained it only at the very, very outset here. This is a new app which is available in the UK and Australia, New Zealand, Philippines. I think that's it. I think those are the 4 countries where it's available, but it is going to be available worldwide very soon. It is a classic Scrabble app, no bells and whistles that you may be accustomed to from other apps. So if that's something that you prefer, this could be a good fit for you. As Brian plays Kadi, and Phil really, with that brutal draw, he's going to struggle. Kadi looks like a great play for Brian, by the way, covering up that triple to make sure that he gets there before Phil, and getting that cue off the rack. Seems solid. So Phil with a much tougher position here. Thank you very much to Kaza. Doing our best here. I do apologize for the flickering. That is not on the players. That is on sort of me as the producer with what I've asked them to do to get their phone screens onto my screen to show you guys. So I know that's bothersome. I hope nobody is, experiencing any negative symptom thanks to the flickering. They are playing on their phones. That's correct, Penumbra. This is a phone-based app. So, yeah. So Phil, let me start Phil's clock here again. So the app currently does not have timed mode, but it actually is going to soon, and that's going to make my life a lot easier. So Phil's getting set to play Orei here for 7. That's going to be what he goes with. I mean, not what he wants to do, but something using 4 vowels was definitely called for, unless there was some much better scoring play that I'm not seeing. Another option potentially could have been playing outie through one of the T's, potentially the T of a droider, keeping the slightly better AIS instead of IOS, but either way, wasn't going to be great. So we resume with Brian looking to add to his lead. He doesn't have very good tiles, but he definitely has good enough tiles to get another good score. But Phil did draw the X. Not sure if there's an obvious place where he'll be able to play it, but that's better than another vowel in his shoes right now. So yeah, let's see. What can Brian do? He could play the extremely amusing I've seen this be played by, I think, Nigel Richards, in fact. He could play Wabbit right here. And no, this does not mean the thing that, is it Yosemite Sam or it's Elmer Fudd? Which cartoon character says Wabbit? I think it's Elmer Fudd. Elmer Fudd. That is not what this means. So Brian having a look at the tiles. just to see, is there anything he can take advantage of in the unseen tiles? It looks like he could be considering just playing off his C and 2 Bs with something like Cobb, potentially. Not sure there's any better. I mean, there are plays like ABBA as well that score nicely and do a little bit of blocking. If I'm Brian at this point, I'm up by enough that I kind of want to start thinking about doing some blocking here if I can. Dafty Duck. Yeah, they all say Wabbit in that show, or on Looney Tunes. So yeah, this is a move without any, to my eye, clear and obvious top plays. Nothing feels like a runaway favorite to me here. Hey, Magnus. Yes, this is a Scrabble stream, not super well advertised on my end, but we are taking a look at actually 4, today 2, and then Wednesday 2 more of the top players in the UK playing on our Scopely's new Scrabble app. The flickering is a downer, but I assure you the app does not flicker when you actually use it locally. It's the way that the players are getting me their screen capture that is causing that, so I do apologize. But we're still going to get to watch some great Scrabble gameplay here. And yeah, I guess if I don't know, if I had any option here, I guess I would probably play Wabbit, which is a goofy looking word that would be very easy to miss. And if I didn't spot that, which you could easily be forgiven, I would... Okay, looks like Cabin. He's considering Cabin, which at least gets a few points, but it does leave BW on the rack. There's really no great way to avoid it. Okay, here's a play that doesn't leave BW on the rack and does a good amount of blocking to the board, as we discussed. So this is a play that accomplishes some nice things, scoring 20 points. So a few more points on offer for some other options, but this is a tough one. So I could see Brian, yeah, you could see Brian's like, man, I don't know. He doesn't love this play, but there really isn't an answer to love necessarily. So see what he goes with here. He's thinking about Bawana, clearly. Not sure if Phil is thinking about where he's going to be putting that X, but okay, there we go. So that is the play. Bawana for 20. As we go back to Phil, who is now even further in arrears here, and Brian drawing no vowels, which is kind of exactly what Phil is needing to hope will happen to him here. So, what to do with that X is the real question. It feels like there should be something better, but there really isn't an obvious place to plop that X down for good scores, which is a little bit annoying. I feel like, yeah, this spot you just can't do anything here. Trying to figure out, can I get my X here? This is not a spot for it. So it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of differences in watching Scrabble in this manner compared to the usual ways. Like if we go to... it was my aspiration to be able to show like a 2-screen view here where you could see both players experimenting and putting tiles on the board. If it's flickering really badly, then we're not going to do that, as I got to start the timer, because I don't want to cause anybody to have issues. Oh yeah, the players did ask, what aids can we use? And there's nothing stopping you from using a physical board if you like. And that may be what Phil is doing as he is about to play Oxo here for 29 and hoping for some consonants. It seems pretty reasonable. And look at that. He's drawn a bingo. Iso-Etes, which actually plays with Fados. So not sure if it fits anywhere else. Is it going to get blocked? Not by 4x here. So Brian getting potentially set to play 4x, taking a look at the tile pool here. This is not going to get in the way of Phil's 7-letter word that he's considering. Oh, scores reversed. Thank you. Yes. Appreciate that. Thanks, Lewis. Good catch. What would be the best way to fix that, actually? I know what I need to do. Probably this. There we go. We're gonna fix the plane while it's in the air here. And Brian obliging us by not making a move just yet. Okay, he does play 4x. And that's gonna let Phil potentially play a 7-letter word, which he's quite likely to find, I would think. It's not the easiest one ever, but you can see where that I is going on the board that he has definitely spotted it. And let's see. Nope, that wasn't it. There we go. Ooh. There. Okay, fixed it. So that was a very, very timely draw for Phil as he now takes the lead, and Brian's tiles are not much better here. So we'll cut back to the players. And I know I didn't get too many. I think the players are playing at a good clip. They're not going to go overtime. They're obliging us here, which is nice. But all of a sudden, Brian's draws... He just went through a huge, huge vowel drought at a bad time here. So that is certainly not what he was hoping for. Phil playing off his X, drawing the bingo that he badly needed. And yeah, it's a whole new ball game now. So after ISO ETs, which let me get that in so we can see the definition of that one. Okay, so we're up to date now. It is a plant. So many plants out there. Thank you to all the plants of the world for expanding the Scrabble dictionary by a pretty huge amount. If you're out there on Facebook, by the way, feel free to say hello. Not sure if anybody's watching or what. We are trying to multi-stream and seeing if anybody's watching there. But on YouTube, we got lots of people. I see you all. I appreciate the highs on YouTube as well. Not direction following, but very friendly, and we can overlook that, of course. So yeah, what to do other than what some of you have suggested of just playing coving here. This play is 28 points. That's pretty solid. Whoop. I was thinking maybe going down, but the overlaps aren't there to play too far. There are a lot of A's to come. So if you play coving here, putting a G right here, you could reasonably expect that Phil will have an A to play across. But in fact, as we can see, he does not. So yeah, Brian is going to reluctantly go ahead and play this move. I think undoubles the G's, gets rid of all those consonants. Doesn't really open a ton back, especially if Phil doesn't have an A. The C stops overlaps here, and if he doesn't have an A or a U, he's not going to be able to overlap on top either. So as it turns out, this play is somewhat defensive as well. So 28 points. Brian goes back up by 20, which is actually a pretty solid lead here. And back over to Phil. He is definitely going to be looking for something good with that J as he looks. We can't see. I could show you here, but he was looking at his tile tracking. Now he's back looking over the board. So not sure what y'all are spotting, but there are a couple plays that are going to be solid if he's able to spot them here. The J playing at the very least, something that is findable, very findable, would just be playing JEE right here. However, even better option, potentially Jello into the O, keeping one of the two E's, a little better balance, even though HV would remain on the rack. Oh, very interesting idea of potentially Lev. That is a fun one. If you can pick one of the I's remaining. I do have the unseen tiles here from the active player POV. If you're seeing in this little area, hopefully I can stay up to date with it. That's a cool thought. That is a cool thought. You get Jive some of the time. Maybe you draw two A's and get Java. Maybe you can get two A's with that sort of draw. So that is a sneakily interesting option. It doesn't even have the downside of bingos either. So if you play Lev in this spot, because the S of Septemes is right here stopping this triple, you can't even get hit with bingos through the V. So that limits the downside risk quite a bit there. So that's an interesting option. But that being said, it looks like Phil has the tiles for Jello. He has Gel meaningfully set aside on the rack here. I'm going to guess that Jello may be forthcoming. So this is just game one. We are into the home stretch here of our first game in what is going to be a best-of-5 match. You can see my little star system, as Jello is the play for Phil. I have a star system at the base of the board here, so whoever wins is going to get the first star, and they're trying to get 3. So that's the goal here. Who can win 3 games the earliest? And Brian, as has been pointed out, he has Granita on his rack, but the board is not a good one. And normally those tiles look very, very good for potentially bingoing, but not on this board. As we'll cut to the two board view here. Start Brian's clock. So normally playing off an A would seem warranted because the other tiles on your rack of rating are just very, very good. We love rating, don't we, Scrabble players? But is that what's called for here? And if not, then what? What is your high scoring play? It's not clear where you're going to score a lot of points. Are you looking at playing down from this O? Are you going to play O-ring or something of that nature just to get as many points as you can? This is a tough one. Tough one for sure. Brian's going to be thinking about it. And Phil with some good scoring tiles. Normally you don't like the HV combination, but he left those 2 tiles after Jello, potentially thinking to himself, well, the board's not good for bingoing, and these normally unwieldy tiles actually could be good to keep here, as Brian's thinking about the unseen tiles. No, not 2 in the bag. It's 9 in the bag. So the tile, I think I'm up to date here. There are 16 tiles unseen to Brian. Sorry, if that's small, I could potentially make that bigger. But you can see the number of tiles unseen to the active player right here. So, yeah, still a little bit of game left. Brian's down by 20. Doesn't feel like that much, but on this board, it is a lot. And if you look at those unseen tiles, there is not much good to hope for either. All 4 S's and both blanks are on the board. You've got 2 U's and a V, 3 N's. It's tough. It's tough. So what I'd be thinking about is what happens if I just play my A here? Right? That scores 18 points. That's almost as much as you get by playing much longer right here. So what could happen if I just play my A, right? Do I have things that I can draw up here? And there are a couple, but not a lot. There's not a lot of good things that you can hit starting with an A at the top of the board. So it's tough. It's weird because normally, again, you would not just fish 1A, but when it's one of your higher scoring plays, maybe that's what you want to do. Interesting. Brian may be getting set to play at here. This is deceptively a bingo lane that he might be trying to set up for himself. There are overlaps, right? He could definitely hit overlaps. And, oh, he is going to potentially pivot. Organa for, yeah, this is, I mean, this might be the way here. You might need to not worry so much about bingoing. Now he's thinking about Oregon, trying to figure out what is the proper sacrifice to make here between points and keeping an A, which is kind of important to play on the top row of the board. Organa does not keep an A, so you can no longer play on the top, but it scores better. So tricky move here. It's only 3 points different. He's going to go ahead and max out on the score there. I like this. I think this is a very reasonable way forward here. I don't think there were that. Oh my God, he just drew a 7. And he sees it. Oh my God. He sees it instantly. Didn't take him any time. You can see he's getting set to try it here. As we'll cut to the 2-board view. Brian trying unpinked on the top of the board. And this is a key move here. Crazy. He spotted that instantaneously, and he knows that it is getting set to play at the top of the board. So Phil meaningfully has a Vel set up here that maybe he's getting set to play here, which would be a devastating blow to Brian. But at the same time, even though it would suck to have this bingo blocked, the draw of PK is still a good one, even if the bingo gets blocked. You're still going to be able to score nicely with Ket or Kep. Maybe you want to play Ket here, saving the P for a future scoring play rather than using both the K and the P. Correct, Penumbra. That is the players checking the tile tracking in the app. So that, of course, is done for you. I got to start Phil's clock. So this is fascinating. Very fascinating. I'm just wondering if Phil can even reasonably look into this bag and feel like there are any realistic threats. I feel like from Phil's perspective here, let me get the unseen tiles. Yeah, is this right? Yeah. This is the tile pool from Phil's perspective. So he might think if he plays a Vel, maybe a Vel gets bingoed on more often than just leaving the spot open, which would be a brutal beat. This would be a very bad beat if that's what happens here. So a very interesting game here between these two great players in game 1 of the ABSP Masters Melee semifinals, number 1. So everything in this game hanging in the balance right now. Is Phil going to block unpinked and buy himself another turn and force Brian to make a couple much more precise plays? Or is he going to maybe correctly think to himself, the top of the board is a dead zone. I just need to score anywhere else, and I should be fine holding these nice high-scoring V and H. I could easily see him play his H here and just leave the top of the board open. And I'm not even sure that would be that bad of a mistake if he were to do so. So that is crazy, right? Something just like HO. Look at that. HO scores 29. Leaves an A to play up here next turn for when you really need it. Blocks a lot of the plays that Brian might have with the K in that spot. That would be a very natural play for Phil to make here. So there are extremely realistic options that he could make that don't do anything to block the top of the board, and Brian just has to sit and wait to see, is he going to get this crazy bingo unpinked? Man, that is a fun one. We'll just have to see. So Phil has plenty of time to think this through. Switching potentially to Halva. Oh, look at that. He might be getting set to play something here. So Halva, Hovia, another option. These would block the top of the board and score well. Do they leave him with tricky timing in an endgame? They put him up by a solid amount. But yeah, you are leaving, if you play up here a bunch of tiles, there are 4 tiles in the bag right now. So if Phil plays here, he empties the bag and sets up possible high scoring out in twos for Brian that could get him there. So those are very realistic options too. They put you up solidly. They block any sevens that Brian could happen to have. And knowing Phil, he might be able to look into this pool and see unpinked as a possibility. But you don't want to over-index on that. We here watching the game, we're going to be thinking about that because of the recency bias or whatever bias, cognitive fallacy it may be, because we know that's what Brian has on his rack right here. But yeah, there's probably lots of other stuff to consider, other bingos that might be possible. Bingos with the eye maybe underneath here. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm not even sure what there is. There might not be that much, actually. Let me just take a look. How many sevens are in this pool? We do sub-anagram. Okay, unpaint, uptrain, urinant. Really not many. There's really not many, and they all start with U. So there are not very many bingos, and none of them start with A. Oh, look at this. So this was suggested by Lewis in the chat, Volante for 22. This goes a little bit deeper into the bag. This is going to block unpinked, and it's going to force Brian into a tough endgame. But that being said, 22 points. Phil's already down by 7, and that is going to be what he goes with here. So for 22 points, that is going to create what feels like a potentially winnable endgame, depending on what is drawn. And technically, we can know what's going to be drawn. But there we go. An H. An H is a really good tile to keep, which of course he kept on Volante, I should add. So by keeping the H, Phil is probably thinking, I'm in a position to withstand out in twos here because I should have something good enough. But I don't know. I'm not sure that he's gone up by enough points. Very, very quickly, Brian spotting unpin, which is a great, great idea. This leaves KT to play in this spot. That's going to be really good. Of course, Phil could potentially block that by playing his H right here. There should be enough points on offer for some other spots here like take to collect a bunch of points from Phil's rack. If he can only just play his H here to block Ket, this looks like it's going to be a winning play for Brian. And he spotted it very, very fast. Nicely done. Very nicely done. So unpinked, potentially getting blocked. But it should be fine if unpin is the play. There's not, I guess, I should say Ha is a better block than just HE. So that does a little bit better to block. But I still think that you should just barely squeak it out by playing take here if you're Brian afterwards. Whoa. So we are looking at a razor thin margin potentially here. But Brian's put down what we think is a winning play. He's just making sure he's doing some math, doing some calculation. He's down by 15. This is going to score 24, putting him up 9. Phil has a 29-point play on offer. He has to block Ket for a very good score, 35. And there it is, nicely spotted by Brian Poe. This looks like it should be a winning play. leaving Phil with no great option to both block Ket and use enough of his tiles to stay far enough ahead. So nice play here by Brian. Tough one for Phil. It's hard to say whether he would have been better off with some of his other options than Volante there. Certainly Volante blocking unpinked, right? Getting the V up high enough on the board to block Brian's bingo that would have instantly won the game. That saved him for a turn. But was there a better way? Could he have played Halva here and tried to, I don't know. It doesn't feel great because now you don't even have an H in the end game. So you're getting a bunch more points, but you're left with really low scoring tiles a lot of the time. So maybe you got to hope you draw the K. Not sure. Phil back on his clock here. So very, very good game here. Not too much to critique from two players. Hopefully we get a bunch more games just like this. Phil looking into the tiles and realizing that, yeah, this is his best play here. But Brian is going to have multiple options. And yeah, Phil's maybe realizing that it's going to be a narrow loss for him. And there we go. Take is going to be the play. He's just making absolutely sure he's going to get 8 points from Phil's rack here. We'll go to the 2-board view. And Brian is about to, hasn't committed it yet. You see the green bar over those letters. And there it is. So you see, for now, 418, but we fixed this bug from Scrabble Go. So Brian is the winner. A very, very good game. Just coming off mute on Zoom to say that was a great game by the two of you. And as long as both of you are okay, it'll be Phil's move first. So he can feel free to hit rematch. And Brian will stand by and wait for the return, second move of the game. So anytime Phil's ready, we can get that going. So cool. So
1 sec, yeah.
Yeah, there's no great rush as we unpack that great first game. So no need to rush right into it, Phil. But whenever you're ready, feel free. Cool. So with that, wow, that was a banger. That was an absolute banger of a game. Sorry again, everybody, for the flickering. We'll try to fix that on future stream. I'm not 100% sure why it's happening, which makes it, I mean, I guess that's normal with tech issues. So I do apologize for that. But that was a great game nonetheless. Hope you all enjoyed it. So it is going to be Phil to respond. I'll just cut to this screen so we can see when he is getting set. You can see no missed bingos. We knew that. We do have game review here as well. So once again, while we wait, I'll just do a quick promo here. This is in promotion of our new Scrabble app. If you are in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or the Philippines, you can get your hands on the app that these players are using right now. Let me get this clock reset. All right, so Phil to go first. Let me reset. I inadvertently, there we go. Took a second off of Brian's clock there. But for those of you in the US, Canada, other areas of the world, not yet. You'll have to wait a little longer to get your hands on this one. But yeah, it should be very exciting, I would think, to tournament players. It might fit what you're looking for in a Scrabble app a little bit better than some of the options on the market right now. And I make a puzzle every day by hand, which I think is a lot of fun. So Phil going first here. It looks like he is getting set to play Volti, which seems like a very, very solid option for him. I would think that would be his best option, going with the vertical placement. I guess another option would be Vitro, but this keeps a slightly better leave in RT. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So Phil going with Volti to start here. And it's over to Brian. to respond. Decent tiles here. When I see these tiles for Brian, I think to myself, well, it feels like I might have some kind of obscure bingo here. So you got to at least look. But in fact, I don't believe that there is such a word. Thank you very much. How is it different to the current app? So I would say answer to that is very much a focus on classic Scrabble with no bells and whistles. It has the ability to review your games after you're done. It has the aforementioned puzzle mode by me. There are no computer opponents in regular PvP games unless you opt into playing bots in the, play a bot window. So that's something a lot of players have been asking for quite a while. So there are a number of improvements. I've also been working on a lot of the bot strategies. So there are about 20 computer opponents that all play a little bit differently from one another. Sorry, I got to start Brian's clock. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of nice improvements. Of course, I am also partial to good old Scrabble Go, but I think when this app is out in the entire world, it's going to be great for everybody to have an option that fits your needs a little better. There's going to be just a better choice. Whether you want to stick with Scrabble Go or the new game, everybody should find something that makes them a little bit happier than the status quo. So what does Brian do? There's no bingo. He has the G and the N on the rack. He also has the S, which is another good tile, of course. What do you even do here? Volti is itself a plural, so no hooking. But that certainly... very good note that I should be giving Brian his star. Brian definitely should be getting a star for winning that first game. Nicely done. Okay, I forgot about that. Had fun trying to lose to Whoops Walter. Yes. That was an idea I had, that it would be fun to have a bot that literally plays the worst possible move. So there is a bot that will play for 1 point or 0 points, potentially, if it has the ability to do so. So, yeah, sorry for the flickering. I'll give you all a respite, as maybe this could be a good play worth considering. Baloo. The reason this play is extra nice is that it takes an N hook, too. I think that might be what Brian is getting set to play. Yep, there we go. So right on cue. This is it doesn't feel like that good of a play, but in this position, it seems like it does a lot of good things. The one thing it doesn't do is score, but it does everything else. Gets rid of one of the two A's, gets rid of the B and the U. And Brian is thinking hard he's definitely thinking, what do I have here with these decent looking letters? And I'm pretty sure he is going to be able to fit, if it doesn't get blocked, he'll be able to fit lasagnas going down. Yeah, he sees it. Oh, also salsa-ing through the I, if he doesn't see that. Lasagna's a little bit better. And Phil with another rough draw. He had a draw just like this in the first game. All those vowels into the X. So... yeah, not what he was hoping for. Phil left TR on his opening play and drew QAEOO. He's probably not loving the new app right now. Sorry, Phil. But the game is young. The game is young. Oh, I have to go to Phil's view. Sorry. Phil playing Cot, that's as good as he can get there. And the nice thing about that is that, did he just find a way... oh, no. Wow. So I forgot. That you actually can put an S on here. Did somebody correct me on that? Am I crazy? What is that word defined as in Collins? A direction to musicians to turn the page. It does take an S. So this is Hold on. So this is a huge deal, being able to play on a void challenge situation. But wait, this is interesting. Brian's thinking about this. I don't want to spoil. So he's not exchanging. Sorry, I'll go to the two-board view. Yes, okay. So I was wondering if he's going to see that lasagna actually plays in two different locations, which are very, very different, right? So playing lasagnas here, putting an L in the triple lane, that could, I mean, in this particular case, it would give back some nice bingos on the triple lane, and Phil is very likely to get some good bingos here in response to this, as lasagnas is going to be the play. What is happening to my to this? Why is this happening like with the score? Kind of weird. Maybe it's when they get to a third digit that it changes a little bit. But either way, that's a big swing, right? You can never get tripled on after lasagnas where Brian just played it. You do get an extra point in the bargain too. So nice vision by Brian to stick with it. He didn't make his play, and he has bio types lined up if he were to get a T to play through. I'm not sure that he will. But in any case, we'll go back to our board view. And the final score of the first game, I believe, was 418 to 414. So it was 418, 414 Brian, I believe. And that score was reversed going into the final tile adjudication. So Phil was up 418 to 414, but he had 4 tiles left on his rack when Brian went out, and that switched over the outcome of the game. Sorry, got to make sure I'm hitting those timers. Although the players are playing very quickly, so it's not such a big deal. So Phil has spotted that he can play out ropes into the S of lasagnas, which that is a very nice play. Definitely a solid bingo. In his shoes, he's probably thinking, geez, this N sure looks like it would be good to play through. But as it turns out, there is no playable bingo through that N. So Bill, whether he knows it or not, has honed in on his highest scoring bingo right here, out ropes. So a nice job by him to spot that. So we know no matter what he decides on here, he's going to come back to what is going to be his highest scoring play. But again, it's tough. It's tough to know that. You really don't want to miss a double-double through that N. So, yeah. Good job by Brian to spot the better lasagnas. I'm thinking to myself, would I have known that Volti takes an S in Collins? And I'm not even sure I would have thought to put an S on it and test it, frankly. So that's kind of crazy. So yeah, again, I do apologize for the flickering. We'll try to fix that in future iterations of this. We didn't want to delay too much while we troubleshoot, but that's something that I'll be on the lookout for, of how to get that fixed. But hopefully everybody can follow along for the most part during the pauses there. And, oh, look at this. Phil is going to maybe play Euro Pops. That is a cool play. It doesn't score as well as out ropes, but it could be enough better defensively. Because think about it. Euro Pops for 70. Out ropes puts an E here. That is way easier to play through to the triple. It's such a much better and bigger scoring spot. So this could be a really clever decision by Phil to avoid making, by placing the E for out ropes. You do get 4 more points, but you just get crushed off of this by a large variety of tiles that play alongside the A. much, much tougher to do that after Euro pops. So very clever choice. He's also put the blank there with 2 Ps. He could have goofed and put the higher scoring P here. So very, very good, clever play, in my opinion. And we go back over to Brian, who no T for biotypes, but should be able to score pretty well here. Already spotting Yob, which leaves very, very good bingo tiles in PS. The nice thing about that is now with Cat, there is an S hook that is somewhat unassailable. It's going to be very difficult to hit this S. Brian may be electing to go with Yibo, which scores a lot better than Yob, 6 extra points. So he's thinking, he's weighing up how many points is it worth to sacrifice to keep an E on the rack, which definitely is going to improve his odds of getting a bingo. You want to keep that E, but if there are a lot of E's to come, you might be willing to part with it to get 6 extra points here. So these are the types of cost-benefit analysis that you do on so many plays in Scrabble. Brian's going to go ahead and take the 6 extra points. I think this makes a great deal of sense. It also blocks the E of Europop, which Phil might have been hoping stayed open because he's drawn the second blank straight away. And without that open E, it's a little bit tougher to fit bingos on the board. Definitely was going to be some stuff there. But he has stuff. He has a couple options, but they are very constrained to one spot and only one spot, hooking balloon, which if you're not thinking about that, you would think there has to be something better somewhere, but it turns out there is not. Our fill up here. So a nice play by Brian, and we've got another close game. We're very fortunate so far. No immediate blowouts happening, which we're happy about. So I feel like I must have done something wrong with my multi-stream to Facebook. Not sure. Really seeing it. Anybody out there? I'll try to figure that out later. Hopefully nobody is acting up on Facebook and I can't see it, but I see all of you on YouTube and I appreciate everybody for watching along. So yeah, let's see. Phil has to... Let me get more of Phil. There we go. Okay. So, ooh, hold on. There we go. Okay. Good spot. So, damming is going to be the play. 72. This is the only spot where a bingo fits on this board. Very nicely spotted. It's an open question about whether playing Damning or Mankind is actually better. Mankind scores the same and puts the M here, which is 1 more point than the D, but surely allows fewer bingos to go down than a D. I think it's a wash. I'm sure those two plays are nearly identical. I guess potentially you could infer maybe from Brian's previous play of Yibo using an E. Maybe because he used the E, you can think, well, maybe he's likelier to have another E and you wouldn't want to put this. I'm not sure I agree with that logic. I think these two plays are very, very close to identical. So back over to Brian, who is now in arrears by quite a bit through no real fault of his own. And he quickly plays ump. I didn't even get a chance to show his board there. But that was a really solid play. Not a lot else going on for him on that board. Ump for 30. Seems pretty good. So now I think for Phil, I would think that something like oozed is very much called for here. That seems really, really solid for him with all those E's and O's. Oh, there's a better play. Or no, I don't know about a better play, but there is a higher scoring play than oozed. Kudos to whoever could find that. Yeah, ump is a really nice play just because. Oh, nice job, Phil. Very nice. So I feel like I would have autopiloted oozed here, but Phil does one better for sure. Zoodle for 51. The reason this is so much better is not just the additional 6 points that you get, but if you can envision oozed on the board here, yeah, you do keep your lone consonant in the L. Well, you keep one of your 2 consonants in the L, but this is a really big scoring spot right here. And after Zoodle, you just aren't creating anything close to that size of a scoring spot. It's a good bingo lane, but 5-letter words with a heavy tile here would have been pretty rough after oozed, and he has avoided that and gotten 6 extra points in the bargain. So nice job by Phil Robertshaw here. That's a good play. Oh, and look at that. Look what he's got. And fierce off of this N. Oh man. I don't know if that's ever getting blocked here either. How are you going to block and fierce? Skewed just seems so obvious if you're Brian and you see skewed and yups, it just scores a billion points. You're going to play that every time if you see it. And if you don't play that, I'm not even sure what else. Uked. This doesn't feel great either, creating such a big scoring spot right here. To me, it's skewed or bust here. Skewed for 66. Yeah, here it comes. Definitely correct. That is a huge score. That's just as much as a weak bingo. So you got to go for it here. Definitely correct. And that is going to let Phil play in fierce. But then the action's going to continue after that because then there's going to be an E open in the triple lane. So if Brian draws something good, both blanks are used up. So there we go. Skewed is the play. And I don't think Phil is going to waste much time here. Good job by Brian to spot that one. As soon as you see it, it definitely feels like that has to be the play. You know what I want to point out, though? And fierce is definitely correct, but look at this. This is valid. You could play this now. RE just got a lot more valuable in this game. Rescued. The weird spelling of rescued. Got to see if the players think about that. That is not a gimme to think of that weird spelling of rescued. So let me start this clock here for Phil. And fierce is going to be the play. Very nicely spotted. This is definitely correct. But, oh man, this is crazy. Oh man, Wiltja plays here. Hold on. We got to go quickly. Ryan's playing quick, and he has no reason to wait. Let me pause on the clock. It's Phil's turn again. 75 points for Wiltja right there. And that keeps the bottom of the board wide open. Oh my god. This game is getting crazy too. Huge. So, after all that Phil is back on turn. He has good tiles. And Brian has diarized through either E. So I'm not sure how diarized is getting blocked here for Brian. But Phil is going to get a boatload of points for this X. So I think the human move here. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm not missing Phil's move here. So I think the human move is probably to play Hex right here. This feels like wow, I can spot this one. It scores 53. There are possible options playing through this E. If Phil does not want to leave this open, he can play Hexer, or he can play a much more obscure word in Retchy. He could play Retchy, leaving his X. Has a ton of good spots for the X in different spots on the board, so leaving it is not the worst thing to do here. And then he's got RE. Like we said, he has RE in reserve. So is there any reasonable play that leaves RE in reserve? I'm not sure. I feel like most of the plays that we're talking about use up either one or the other of the R and the E. It would be great if you could find a play like that. I don't think one exists here, but that's definitely what I'm looking for. But there are a lot of ways that Phil could go here. I'm really not super confident. I feel like the E at the bottom of the board is definitely a very salient threat. So I would want to potentially get in the way and block this. Of course, maybe it's less of a red alert to block this E because of the second one. So if you're blocking bingos through the E of Infierce, they're not going to be good blocks because unless you somehow find a way to play the H here, which is not really possible. So you're not really blocking bingos that well by playing through the E. You're blocking triple triples and you're blocking scoring plays through the E. But if you look at these tiles, this is from Phil's POV. Not a lot of good scoring tiles still out there. You're not going to get hit that hard through this E. So if ever there was a time to leave it open, this could be it. The highest scoring tile left is a 4-point tile, F, H, V, Y. That's it. Only 4 of them. The entire rest of the pool is low pointers. And you don't gain a ton of bingo defense by playing through this E. So that would be really, really tough to put that together in a live game. I mean, we definitely have the advantage of the hive mind here. Hey, Noah, this is not Scrabble Go. This is a new app that is only out right now in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines. It is just called Scrabble, and I think it's going to be very popular with tournament players for a number of reasons. A little bit more of a core focus on classic Scrabble with no bells and whistles. Puzzles from me every day. I hand make puzzles. All right, Phil's going to go ahead and play Hex. That's going to leave Diarized open at the bottom of the board. He keeps an R. If he's able to draw another E, he will still have Rescued here, potentially, for another humongous follow-up. So there we go. Hex is the play. No delay from Brian here. Diarized comes down absolutely instantly. And it's still going to be close. It's still going to be close. Even though that's kind of a gut punch for Phil here. It is going to be super, super close, and he gets the next move. So, nice job, Brian, wasting no time. He's going to know for sure that if he has a bingo through the E, that's going to be his theoretical optimal play there. So, Phil now trailing by 4 with 2 R's on his rack. Such a big deal whether he is aware of this spot right here. This is a big deal. This scores like a bingo. This scores almost 60 points. That's going to be a big deal if neither player bingos from here on out. Oh, nice. Yes, it's only out in a few countries. It's going to be nice when it's out worldwide. Everybody should be able to find matches more quickly and things of that nature. Just a few months, we think. It's only going to be a few months. And I do apologize for the flickering. The app is not flickering. I promise you. My production system is causing the flickering. It's on me, not the app, nor is it on the players. So I apologize for that. That's something we'll try to get fixed before the next semifinal, but hopefully you can all enjoy watching along to a pretty good extent. The Sam and Ronnie things that flash up are just other games that the players have in their app. That's totally fine. I'm glad that they're playing the app enough to have other games. So yeah, right. It's just like Scrabble Go, where you can play lots of games asynchronously. The timer is also something that I am running here. So just for the record, there is going to be a timed game feature in this app as well. That's the next thing we're trying to build. Ooh, hold on. Let's see. Oh, Phil going with erived. That is a fun word. We all love that word. Oh, and he has churring. Oh my God. Churring. Whether he wants to play it for the maximum score or whether he wants to play it for more defensive with the C here for many fewer points. Churring now on Phil's rack, threatening to go down through this R. That would be a big, big blow. He did not draw an E for his big rescued possibility. But, oh, is it going to get blocked? By Genua. Very nice. That is a very nice play. Scoring quite well. Not that many plays are going to score better than this for Brian. Also turning a bunch more tiles. Another option, by the way, could just be Guava right here. This is a pretty good play. He could elect to take this off the board and go for Guava, scoring nicely as well and leaving an N. But if he goes with this, it is going to save him, I think, in the short term. Oh, no, it's the other R. Oh, my God. Churring. Thanks, everybody. Churring the other R. So Phil must be sitting there thinking, how the heck are both of my churrings going to get blocked? Yeah. Oh, my God. Crazy. Thanks, chat, for helping me to see that. Looks like Brian pivoting potentially to Aguna. This could be really, really smart. Brian could be thinking, well, I guess Genua also leaves an E. He has 2 E's. But he could be thinking, I need to leave an E because if I draw one of the R's, I have this massive play. And as it turns out, Phil only has one of the 2 R's. So even after Phil plays churring, if Brian draws that last R and sees this huge play in the corner, he's still going to be right in this thing, which is insane. That is crazy. So we shall see. Oh, it's a great app. I play daily and do the puzzle. Thank you very much, Leslie. I appreciate that. I make those puzzles. Well, I don't make them every day. I sit down every week and I make like 7 at once. So it's become one of the favorite things that I am expected to do is to make those puzzles. And I'm trying to make them fun. I'm trying to make it so that when you get the answer, you feel kind of that eureka moment of, oh my God, that is so cool. And I always try to make the answer a little hint for everybody. The answer is always going to be a common word. And the answer is always, it is never going to be a bingo. I like not requiring you to find a bingo. It's going to be a non-bingo answer until maybe if you guys want there to be bingo answers, we can make that. We can have them start to be bingos, but I like it when they're non-bingos. It's kind of fun that way. So, yeah, appreciate all the kind words about the puzzle. But yeah, this is a brutal spot for Brian. He has a lot of different plays. He has all these vowels. He has only 2 consonants. He's looking into the bag. He's trying to figure out what is the best possible leave that I can keep that will help me going forward. And I definitely think keeping an E is very important. There's only one more E unseen to him, so it would be a shame if he used both of his E's and drew an R and was no longer able to play up here. So he's going back to Genua. This was the first play he spotted. And it's back over to Phil, who I really don't think is going to waste much time here and play churring, which is a big swing in this game. 86 points in either spot. You can play it in 2 spots, so there's really no reason not to play it in a slightly more defensive style with the C and I here, putting the G in this spot. no access to the triple word score through that G as a result. So this is going to be a big, big deal. And I know Phil sees it because he has it lined up right there. So, yeah, we'll see. Thank you, Chelsea, for the kind words about the puzzles. One thing that's also I want to add in the near future, you will, if you are a premium subscriber to the app, at some point, you're going to have access to the entire archive of puzzles. And I can tell you, I've been making these puzzles quietly, secretly, for over 2 years. Well, not over 2 years, almost 2 years. There are almost 600 puzzles in the archive that you're going to have access to, dating back way into 2024. So that's going to be another nice value of the premium subscription in the new app. You will get hundreds and hundreds of older puzzles, and I'm excited about that. So, not to overtly advertise too much, although that is somewhat the point, to showcase the new app here. But I'm wondering, what could Phil be thinking about? You kind of have to just let Turing fly here. I feel like there's no way around it. Unless, let me just go to the two-board view and make sure. Okay, yeah. So Phil's just having a good think. There is an R left. He could be thinking about what happens, but Turing scores so well that you should be able to withstand even the big 57-point play up here. You're scoring 83 for Turing. You're only down by 3 right now. You're going to go up by a ton. I think the game is just too close for you to do anything other than play the bingo, and it looks like Phil is deciding to do just that. I wonder if maybe he's going to slot his play over more to ensure that there are extra scoring spots on the board. This could be really smart on Phil's part here. He might be saying, if Brian draws RE, I want to have another high-scoring triple to play through, potentially. That could be what he was thinking here, is to set himself up a little bit better, to say nothing of this spot too. But as it turns out, Brian does not have a bingo, does not have RE on the rack, and it is going to be Phil's win here in Game 2 to even the series. Void challenge. Yeah, void challenge. So the players can put the words on the board, and that is a little different than we're used to as competitive over-the-board players. You don't get that luxury to be able to test and see, but that's just an interesting difference, I think. The spirit of the game is still intact, and at some point, I think we have all talked about on the team here building this app, creating a mode that allows you to challenge your opponent's plays, but for now, it is Void Challenge. So, Brian going to play often. Seems pretty solid, but nicely played throughout this game by Phil Robertshaw. Both players, really. I mean, we're getting very, very good Scrabble being played here by these two, which I'm not surprised in the least to see that. I guess the only reason why you might not play often here is that it gives Trot and Tony back. And I'm wondering, for Brian, where is Phil going to go out? So Cafe is going to be the play. Nice spot there, blocking a little bit. And I think that is a very clever idea by Brian, noting that one of his higher scoring plays here in often would have allowed Phil to go out and end the game. So I'm not sure we've actually talked about what we're going to do with like a tie game or anything like that. So Brian did earn the right to go first in this game. For anybody that's wondering, I have a bunch of other screens as Phil weighing up this endgame, but you can see this tournament started with a group phase, 12 players were invited to compete into 2 groups of 6, and the 2 top performers in each group advanced into our match play bracket here. And yeah, so that's what we're doing. And Brian was the winner of his group, and Phil came in second to Harshan. So for that reason, Brian, as the group winner, gets to go first in this match. But I don't really know if spread... I don't think spread matters that much, other than the players just playing very accurately, because that's what they're used to. Always want to try to play as well as you can, solve those endgames. So yeah, it was a strong field. I was very grateful to the ABSP, Rick Kennedy, Natalie Zolte. All the players have been extremely good to work with throughout this process. Just want to shout out the ABSP. Anybody watching along that's only ever played on Scrabble Go or the new Scrabble app, definitely want to encourage you. If you're based in the UK, there are so many great Scrabble clubs and tournaments out there where you can meet lots of great people, lots of like-minded Scrabble lovers out there, really all over the world, in fact. It's a lot of fun to get out there and play some Scrabble, and it's a lot of fun to watch these 2 amazing players. Phil plays Ort, and Brian going to waste no time in going out here to finish this one off. Lento for 10. That is his best play. So another nicely played game, but it is going to be Phil's win here. Let me, as I'm thinking about it, I'll turn my sound on, zoom with the players, and I'm going to give Phil his little star here for winning that game, if I could find it. There it is, match score. So the players and I agreed prior to the match that game 2 would be a natural break point. So if the 2 of you want to get up, stretch your legs, get a glass of water, go to the restroom, you should feel free to do that. So maybe we'll take a 3-minute break or something like that while I talk to the chat. You guys can get set for game 3, where Brian will go first. So, yeah, players are going to get a little break here. And it's a 1-1 match. We can stop the clock, I guess. So, yeah, this has been really fun so far. The 2 games that we've seen have been fantastic. Let me just make sure that I'm saving these in case we should need to know what the spreads were. So, Phil winning by a score of, well, it's different in Quackle than it is with the actual game, but we can always use the match history to figure that out. I really do apologize for the flickering. That's something that we'll be trying to figure out why that's happening and how we can get that fixed. I do apologize, and I thank everybody for watching along with the flickers. But yeah, so it's knotted up at 1. And on Wednesday, we're going to get another absolute banger of a match headed everybody's way in the form of, I don't even know how many championships he has at this point. Harshan Lambabadu Surya, many time UK, Sri Lankan, nearly world champion, probably a future world champion at this point, against the very formidable president of WESPA and elite expert in his own right, Lukman Owolabi. So that, if you think this matchup is good, get a load of that one. So we got 2 great matchups coming. And then, of course, the winners of these 2 matches are going to face off a week from today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely excited. And, yeah, so while we're waiting, just want to quickly, again, run through that just to give everybody a look at how things shook out. We had these 12 players competing in the group phase. It actually, I had originally asked for 8 players, and the ABSP gave me this list of 12, and I just could not I could not winnow them down. So I decided to change the format completely to accommodate the fact that we would have 12 players, and I split them up into 2 groups of 6 that have exactly equivalent Wesper rating. And they played 2 games apiece against their group mates. So a total of 10 games apiece for every player, playing everyone else in their group twice. And you can see Harshawn, Phil, Brian, and Lukeman were the players to advance. And those are the players who are going to be playing matches. So here we got Brian and Phil, Wednesday, Harshawn, and Lukeman. And once again, just want to shout out, if you are based in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or the Philippines, you can try the app that we're using right now in the App Store. You can use the link that is pinned to the YouTube chat. And if you are based out of anywhere else in the world, sit tight. It's coming to you very soon. Probably a couple months, 3 or 4 months maximum, I would think, at this point. As we continue to add more features, we want to add the puzzle archive, we want to add a timed mode, we want to add more quality of life improvements, dark mode, pass and play. There are a bunch of things that we would like to add to this app, but we think it's going to be very popular among tournament players. So yeah, with that, we'll wait for Phil to sit back down, and it is going to be Brian's move. He'll have to go into his match history. Nice, Joseph. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's part of, if you like the general idea behind doing these types of fun streams that have a little bit of prizes and stuff for the... Ooh, not sure what that is. Oh, I guess Brian's messing with his phone there. No problem. Thank you very much, Belinda. We're very happy to have you. And yeah, any feedback, any features that you all would love to see? Do you all want to see duplicate mode be added to the game? Do you want to see one-on-one timed games? Do you want to be able to send a timed game request to somebody and play a live game with someone on your app? You should all feel free to sound off in the chat with those. But all right, it looks like both players are sitting back down. I think Phil is definitely putting the tiles in front of him to help visualize, which is totally acceptable. That is a permitted aid for the purposes of this contest. So Brian gets up. As soon as he gets back down, we're going to kick off game 3 between these two. We should be ready to rock. So, yeah, here he comes. All right, so I'm turning my sound back on to Zoom. Just turning my sound on Zoom just to say, looks like the two of you are back and mostly ready to rock. So Brian, whenever you're ready, you can pop into match history or go to, however you want to do it, and do a little rematch. And here we go. Game 3, muting on Zoom. Good luck to you both. All right, I am muted on Zoom now, I believe. Brian on turn with a pretty good looking rack, but maybe not quite the bingo here. So close. Is this one of those racks that is so close to bingoing that you're looking to make a really short exchange, potentially? It could be. Could be one of those racks. Do you just play TO? Do you play TOE? Very tricky to suss out what's best. If you exchange, you're certainly exchanging a T, but are you exchanging the O or an E? What's better, right? What's the best exchange here? It might possibly be better to keep the O, which is kind of strange. So Brian is thinking about that very question right now, I think. What gets me more bingos by exchanging? And that is a really, really tough one to suss out over the board. That's one where you kind of just go with instinct unless you are a real sicko who studies stuff like that, which I don't think very many people do. So Brian is going to, it looks like he's going to exchange just the E. Interesting. So I think he must have thought that he has enough other bingos keeping the 2 T's. I am surprised by that. I'm not sure. Maybe the simulation is going to back him up, but either way, he exchanges just 1 E, keeping the 2 T's. There are certainly a bunch of, as you think about it, there are a bunch of things that you can hit. Almost any vowel hits with that. Notates, toniest, testoon, stoutin. That's a really good start. All the vowels except the one that he had. So that is definitely a good start. Is it possible that's the best play? That's crazy. If he correctly sussed that out, yeah, I think that is best of the exchanges, or at least very competitive. Nice. That's very, very impressive that he came up with that. But in any case, nice outside the box decision there by Brian. Ooh, my bad. I let his clock go a little bit. I'll pause on running his clock on his next move. But Phil with a blank to start. So he definitely has a number of options that he's going to be able to open the game with a solid bingo here. Just has to try to... Actually, really, it's just the 2 options. So we can sit here and know that, but of course the players don't have that luxury. So unspeak pointed out, and the other word is uptaken. I think that is a Collins only hook. I think uptake the regular word, but I believe uptaken is Collins only, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I need someone to correct me on that. Let me just quickly look. I'm a sicko. Yeah, I was right. I'm a sicko that tries to keep those dictionaries as, separate as possible. I like to be able to play both. But yeah, so uptaken or unspeak, those are the 2 options. I'm not sure if Phil has spotted them yet. It looked like, as was pointed out in the chat, it looked like Phil had sneak up lined up on the rack, which I'm not sure where. I don't think you would play it here necessarily. But even if this were a word, which it's not, this would be a crazy place to play it because the valid word, okay, he has unspeak lined up now, so that is definitely going to be a good start for him. Okay, here we go. So unspeak seems solid. Uptaken is also very, very similar. I suppose unspeak maybe gives your opponent ing extension some of the time. And again, I'm not going to run Brian's clock on this turn because I ran too much on the previous turn. But this is a bad beat for Brian because there are so many letters that he potentially could have drawn bingos with here. In particular, well, I don't know about so many. Looks like just the R. So he was hoping for an R and didn't get it. So he's going to have another turn here where he does not... Oh, hold on. Okay, so here he's trying... Okay, here we go. So this is the beauty of Void Challenge, is that you get to make absolutely sure by trying these things, which I very, very much doubt that Brian, as good as he is, would have actually played either of those 2 words in an over-the-board tournament of playing Toments or Tomentas through the A. Tomenta is a plural of the word Tomentum. But it's close, right? You're close to having a bingo here. Why not? Put it on the board and see if it comes back with that beautiful green border. That is not to be here. So, no bingos playable, as Brian will soon come to grips with. I'll go ahead and start his clock now. It's been a minute or so. So these are these tough turns where your opponent is up 84-0. You don't have a bingo, but you do have good bingo tiles, and you have a chance to sort of shape the future of the rest of the game. And certainly your tiles are very bingo prone, so you're not going to want to spend too many tiles here. And I really just think it doesn't feel good, but you're looking at some play in this spot, which creates multiple lanes for your ENST leave for 7-letter words. And then what you really want with a play like that, playing here or here, either one, what you really want, though, is to hit this S. That's what you really want to do. So can you draw into a big 8-letter word that scores a lot and completely opens the board back up? That's the actual goal. And if you have to settle for a 7-letter word, that's also great. It's great to get a bingo in short order. And that looks to me like what Brian is thinking about here. He's thinking about playing Tom, and the question is, which side of unspeak do you play this word on, I believe. So Tom, Mott pointed out in the chat, that's equally good. I think maybe Mott here is not as good as Mott here, just because with the aid of the SMA hook, now you still get multiple S hooks. But I actually think it might be better to play on this side. It might be better to play Tom on this side, simply because KO does not take any front hooks. So there's no way that Phil can make a play paralleling the left side of unspeak after Tom that blocks both this hook and this hook somehow or other. Actually, there wouldn't be really any way to put a letter here that prevented hooks. But in any case, these are all very, very close plays, and I fully endorse pretty much any of these as the right way to go here for Brian. And he drew Whitens. So there we go. That's going to work out for him. Whitens is extremely likely to go down somewhere after this play. It's going to be very tough for Phil to block all of the potential positions of that word. So there's, you've got a bunch of them too. So really the main ones are you can play it here and here. So is there some way that Phil can play alongside this but also not create an S hook here? It doesn't seem possible. Doesn't seem like he can. So looks like Brian is going to be striking back quickly, but Phil has an extra turn at his disposal to potentially get his rack into bingo shape in a hurry. And he should be able to keep a pretty good leave here one way or another. He's got the 3 E's, 2 N's. These are good bingo tiles. You just have to maybe try to play off the M and a couple of those E's. He's got some good ways to do it. This is a little scary, playing M-E-N-E right here. This scores quite well, but A-T-E, not just the word meaning past tense of eat, you can actually put an S on this word, so this is a little scary to play this after your opponent just played Tom. So if an opponent that knows as many words as Brian does is playing a 3-tile play right here, just Tom, I'm definitely thinking the other 4 tiles on his rack are pretty good if this is going to be what he's playing. So I have to be a little concerned about opening such a big spot, but the board's already pretty open. You can't be too scared. And Phil making the play of mean here, which seems quite solid to me. I think it's a good play despite the risks. Scoring 26, so going up quite a bit, and that leaves Brian with only 1 spot for Whitens because this word ends in 2 consonants. You can't put it here. So the only spot for this is right here, which is going to give back a nice big triple. Let me go back to, okay, I have Brian's POV, Brian's clock. Notable too, though, If ever there was a play, non-bingo play, not leaving a blank, he has Wheaton here for a pretty good score. I don't think this is correct. 52 points, leaving IST, but that's pretty darn close to as good. But he's going to go with Whitens. I think he's correct to do so. An additional 19 points is really nothing to sneeze at whatsoever. And it's back to Phil, who has drawn a Q once again. It happened last game, and he was able to overcome it. But he's drawn the Q once again at a bad time, for sure. Yet the scores are slightly off every time. I wonder why that's happening. I'm having to move them around. Why are they not in the same place every time? But in any case, let me get more of Brian. There we go. That should be good. Oh, he's more on camera there. All right, so let's start Phil's clock here. So Phil with that Q, tough. That is tough. It seems like maybe with this open U, maybe it's okay to play something like Wrench here, which doesn't feel like it should be that good, leaving the Q. But what else, right? It blocks. It's very good to block off potential plays to this triple if you play Wrench. It scores well, and you have an open U, and you could even draw a U or an I or some other help for your Q after a play like that. So it doesn't feel great to play Wrench here. But if you're going to play your Q, you're really looking at something uninspiring like Quern, and maybe that's fine. So Phil is going to take no chances. He's not going to play Wrench. He's going to go ahead and get the Q off of his rack while he can. And based on his experience in his previous game, I don't blame him that much for this. The downside risk of a Q on your rack can be pretty extreme. You can just sit on your rack the whole game. So he's taking his opportunity to play one here. I think I probably would have played Wrench here. Could they not use ChatGPT? As my latest video on my personal YouTube channel shows, using ChatGPT is no guarantee that you're going to get useful plays. ChatGPT is not that good at Scrabble yet, but I actually am able to see a screen share on Zoom of their computer environments. So I can assure you these are legitimate, fantastic players. And Brian playing TD, I think that word is a synonym of tedious. Very, very high scoring play, which, by the way, Wrench would not have blocked. So part of the reason you're playing Wrench is to obstruct some of the overlaps underneath Whitens, but Wrench would have come up just shy of blocking that 48-point play, and now all of a sudden, Brian is back in the lead. So these two players just giving us good game after good game. Very, very grateful. Scrabble does not always cooperate in that regard. With players this good, sometimes somebody is going to get a really good run of the tiles, as Brian is. Hopefully Brian doesn't have a headache there or something, but yeah, it is. Yeah, using aids is definitely not permitted for this contest. So yeah, so the players know that. The reason, I mean, we have amazing players, some of the best in all of the UK. They're not going to need aids to play at an extremely high level, which is very exciting for us. Oleacat, yes, the anagram of that is aloetic, which did not seem to come up in ChatGPT's quote-unquote mind. So in any case, Phil, very happy to be rid of the Q, and now he is surely thinking about how best to deploy these letters. He has Chaw. That's going to score very, very well right on top here. Seems like a really solid play. I feel like the only other play that is worth consideration as Phil commits this play, we put it back over to Brian. The only other play worth consideration would have been the tricky wah, like the baby sound, which maybe that is slightly more difficult to overlap, but it is still very damaging as an overlap. So Chaw gives back these hooks to CH, of which there are many. Everybody loves CH. A lot of people react to that word when they see that come up in Scrabble content. But it is a very, very useful one in the game of Scrabble. So Brian's going to go ahead and play Fee for 28, keeping a consonant, which was probably very important to him to do. He could have used both of his consonants and played for slightly more points, but doing so would have opened up the triple as well as use his lone remaining consonant there. And good letters for him. Don't think he quite has anything to my eye, but in any case, it's over to Phil, who is up by 8, and on turn, he kept a V after Chaw and drew another one, so that's unideal for him to be sure. But he should be able to do something productive here. Looks like he has Navi lined up on the rack going down here, which is a very interesting play. Scores decently well, keeps the J for the future, and just leaves a really dead board. Getting rid of both V's at once definitely feels like a great logical thing to do here, and that is what Phil is going to do. Sorry for not switching to his board view there, but that looks like a really smart play. I want to point out one play that could have been interesting for Phil here. Diva. Lewis pointing it out in the chat. Setting up J blank E, O or E fitting there. And look at that. Beautiful play by Brian. Souvenir. No valid bingos on his rack there with those good bingo tiles. And he's done a really nice job to get a bunch of points through the S and the V to the triple. That's a great, great play. So Diva, a really interesting option there. And a very nice play by Brian. Souvenir for 33. Easily his top scoring play in a tricky spot. Nicely done. That's a very nice spot by him. And he has good tiles. Let's see where the players are putting their tiles on the board here. Brian and Phil in another completely knotted up match. I mean, if you're Phil, are you thinking about playing Jin here? Setting up your D in a way that is very annoying to block. This is extremely annoying to block without a 6-letter word ending in an A or an O. If you're going to block it, you're going to have to play much shorter in that spot. And you set up a really good bingo line for yourself. That is certainly not your highest scoring play. You can definitely do better than that. Those same, well, no, you wouldn't play J-A-I over that necessarily because that leaves you 2 I's. So that's not an obviously similar play. But you could cash your S here. Oh, there we go. There it is. Jin for 23. Looks great. So in addition to potentially playing down here, you keep a dynamite bingo leave to play through the letters of Souvenir. So you are in good shape after this play a lot, but Phil draws I, an absolutely devastating draw. I am curious to see if he's reacted in any way, shape, or form to that. No, he's just taking a swig. So the I draw is just brutal for Phil. There were a lot of I's to come, but not so many that you could just know that something like that was happening. Any player, no matter how good, is going to experience draws like that. That's the agony and the ecstasy of Scrabble. Sometimes you get the miraculous draw you need, and other times you have incredible odds to get a bingo and you draw I out of the bag. But it's still very close. Still very close. Oop, hold on. Sorry, a little bit slow on that one. A nice overlapping play of blot for Brian, keeping decent bingo tiles. I'm sure if I'm Brian, as I get the clock switched back over to Phil, I'm definitely thinking after Jin that that he probably has a D and that he probably has really good bingo tiles. And I'm definitely a little bit concerned that a bingo is going to be coming down in short order. But it's not to be. So I wonder, what do you do here? Is this, I feel like there are enough reasonable plays, I should say, that you can make here that you wouldn't necessarily want to exchange. I think you could do some good things here. I don't know if you want to play Inia. This is a little scary. Yeah, it leaves very good bingo tiles to potentially hit Jin or the R of Souvenir, but you're making a huge scoring spot. You would definitely have to feel comfortable that this is not going to hurt you. So I don't know about that. You could play, if you're Phil, you could play Meaty right here. That would use your D, though. I really feel like I want to keep this D, but maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay, and you just gun for... Okay, so Phil has exchanged. Perfectly reasonable. He exchanged all of his eyes, I believe. And back over to Brian, who's going to play Carex very quickly. Or maybe he's going to think about it for just a moment. Whoops, let me get his clock. So that's a good play. I do want to point out, I don't know if it's been spotted. Yeah, nice place for the X. Look at that. Jin can hook with an X to make Jinx. This would have left Brian with a pretty good bingo leave. And would have blocked the D hook that he does not have. Ooh, what'd I just do? Oh, I got rid of the timer. Hold on. I must have fat fingered it and closed it. All right, no problem. I'm going to open it back up. Have our chess clock. I think I hit some kind of a hotkey to close it. So I'm going to say that the players had roughly 10 minutes per side there. And let's get this back. I think I can switch that. I'll say 11 minutes per side. There. Okay. This is the peril of being the stream timer is if you hit the wrong button. But I think this is going to be fine. The players have been playing with a good pace. Sorry about that. I don't know what I hit. I hit some kind of a hotkey to close that window. So hopefully, let me just make sure they can see it now. Give me 1 sec. Yeah. Okay. They can. All right, so we're caught up now. Brian taking a good-sized lead. Not very good tiles, but also not a very good draw for Phil after his exchange, and he's going to have to balance his rack once again. So it looks like maybe the context clue, OOS. I think he's considering potentially playing OOS right here. He has 2 S's, which makes them much more expendable. This play keeps the D to play with Jin and makes another good line with good bingo tiles in reserve. So I think that would be a very, very logical play from Phil's perspective to make that play here. So let's just make sure that we're not missing that if he's considering putting that on the board. And yeah, Phil's down by 44, but he's definitely a favorite to get the next bingo down in this game. As we can see, Brian's tiles are quite poor. 6 consonants to 1 vowel and duplicated L's and R's. So even though Phil is down by 40, he's got a good chance of getting that next bingo down, which could be huge for him in the game. So yeah, I think he's really thinking about OOS here. There it goes. This looks like a really reasonable play. I just want to point out for anyone not aware, this play does take a D hook as well. And he draws GGA, a grades. So that is not exactly where he expected to get a bingo, but it feels very, very unlikely that this is going to get blocked. And Brian may... So, I mean, the only thing about that... Oh, and also Sagard, I should say. So a couple bingos, both through the R, and Phil has definitely spotted them, but those aren't as bad, right? Those are going to score 60. Phil probably wants to score 80 by hooking Jin. That would be much more ideal from his perspective. So, in any case, that hook is going to get blocked potentially if Brian plays Lord. He's also thinking about playing Droll to use one more consonant, draw a little bit further to try to get the second blank, an S, the Z. All good reasons at this point to play another tile, and that is going to be the play that Brian makes. I think it is a very reasonable choice by him. And Phil is likely not going to waste super much time here. You got to be happy that you have a bingo at all. But look at that draw for Brian. Second blank and a D to go with it. Excellent draw for him. So even though Phil's going to get the next bingo, as a grades is going to come down, he definitely would have wanted to score more with that, play something with Jin. Instead, he's only going to go up a small amount, and Brian is going to score way more than that with whatever he bingos with now. And another I draw for Phil. Brutal. Very brutal. So Phil has had some tough draws here, to be sure. But let's remember, it was Brian slogging through terrible tiles until just now he finally got a very, very good draw. So players are doing great, and we have another super close game on our hands. Oh my gosh, it's been pointed out that, for those that know, for me, Will Anderson, often go by the handle Wanderer or Wanderer15, and one of the words that is so close to that, Wanderoo. That would be really, really cool to see be played here. There is a thought of maybe how can I play something with Jin that does not put the E here, because the Z combines very well in that spot, right? Like, let's say you play Wanderoo, you're going to get hit sometimes with big ZE plays, but that's just the cost of doing business, potentially. You might just have to go for it, and it's not that easy to find a play. Like, any play, like Broaden is being suggested, and any other play. If you want to avoid putting the E here in this spot, you can do that, but if you do, almost all of your words go up here, and you can still get hit super hard on the triple lane up top. So you may just have to live with it here if you're Brian, and just hope to dodge a really big play. And that is what's going to happen here in a tough break for Phil. He could have been the one drawing that blank, etc. Ooh, okay, so this is also strong. So I wonder if Brian is just not satisfied with a play hooking Jin, if he likes the board control of playing here. He might be thinking, how much does this score? He's probably just thinking, how many points does this leave on the table if I play my bingo underneath the D of Droll? Right, so if I play here, is that a better board for me to hold my smaller lead on than if I play with Jin? I'm going to be up more, but the board is going to have more volatility. So you have to think about that. He's going to play Groaned. I really like that. I like this choice. This is a really, really clever choice, in my opinion. The reason I like this choice is the blank G at the top of the board. Yeah, that is an open triple, but it's not easy to play through a G in that spot. especially because there are no ends left. All the ends are on the board. So the best tile that meshes with the G is all used up on the board, and it's going to be really difficult to use otherwise, and you've avoided putting an E in this spot where you can get hit really hard. I didn't think about that, but that's a really, really good choice by Brian Poe. I like it. I think it makes a ton of sense, and it puts Phil in a world of hurt. Oh, boards have swapped? Hold on. Really? Did I? Let me see here. I can't really tell. I can't tell from this view. They're identical. But we'll find out. As soon as Phil puts a letter on the board, we'll go back and see if we can troubleshoot that. Oh, hold on. Nope. Okay, it's good. Should be good. So Phil is potentially having a look at exchanging here, which just sucks for him. You really, really don't want to exchange here. But what are you doing with I, on the rack? It's just brutal. Let me start that clock. Sorry, I forgot that one. A thought to play Ulu. Sure, that seems sensible. Potentially long term, you might be happy to have those hooks, and it could be tough. Right, so Ulu right here, setting up your S and your Z. Zulu is a word. In theory, that is a very sensible play. In this particular situation, you would get hit with something like Fibril and Lulu, which would be really tough luck for Phil in that case. That doesn't mean that the play is not a good play. You do also leave the Z for this spot, right? Like this is a good spot for the Z, and I'm not sure that Brian will necessarily prioritize blocking that spot. It's hard to say. He'll probably try to block this triple just because it's the worst case scenario, even though he just opened it. But maybe he'll play through the R, which is maybe more salient. I don't know. Maybe he'll just leave it open and correctly reason that that open G is not that good, and he'll just play something like Fib. Like maybe Fib is the right play for Brian on this board unless something new opens up. Block the Z, block some bingo lanes. Could be correct. So we'll pay close attention here and just make sure these boards are not... Oh yeah, they're not flipped. So I think we're good here. The racks are correct. So this is tough. Very tough. That's a fun suggestion by Lewis. Yeah, maybe not at this score. It's so far out of reach that maybe this sequence doesn't actually help you, but just playing meze here, setting up your S to play something down this way, that's fun. But it probably doesn't score enough on a 2-turn basis, given that the board is a little bit too open and Brian should be able to score quite nicely somewhere or other on his next turn. But that's a cool thought. I like it. It's fun. Good to spot stuff like that, even if you're not actually going to go ahead and play it. So, yeah, Phil is having a good think here, as he should. You really, really don't want to exchange here, but I just don't even know. What you're supposed to put on the board here. You probably have to exchange keeping SZ and hope for a big bingo, or hope for some kind of 2-turn sequence of your Z here and then a bingo somewhere else. Tough. Very tough. So Brian has done very well in this game to overcome a big early deficit. Phil hit first with Unspeak. Was up by about 100, but then Brian got Whitens. Phil saddled with the Q, and then several rough draws after that. The 2 Vs with Navi, the 3 Is after Jin. He left a side on his rack after Jin. His bingo chances were probably really good, and he drew I, and now he's drawn I at a bad time. So we'll just have to see. If you are just joining us, we are playing a best of 5 match. This is game 3. Brian and Phil, you see at the bottom of your screen, it is a race to win 3 games. I have our little star system there to help you. And it's 1-1. The 2 players have traded wins in the early going here. And we are using the new Scrabble app. If you are out there, Scrabble fan from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or the Philippines, and you haven't already tried the new app, Scrabble, it's just Scrabble in the App Store, definitely recommend it. The flickering is not, you're not going to see this flickering when you actually get your hands on the app. That's fully on my end here. Haven't been able to troubleshoot that, but a lot of cool stuff in the new game, including very classic look and feel of just core Scrabble, classic Scrabble, no bells and whistles to get in the way, puzzles from me every day, the ability to review your game after each game, a lot of other features that I think are going to be quite popular among the more serious Scrabble players out there, tournament players included. So Phil is just, I feel for him here. I feel like who among us that is an experienced player has not been in this type of situation where you just cannot bear to do anything. All the moves you put on the board feel inadequate. All the exchanges, you feel like, oh my God, I'm down by 57. Exchanging is just going to let my opponent make an average move to go up by 80, and then even my bingos don't do much. But that's just Scrabble. And here we go. Here comes the exchange. He's going to go ahead, and this is correct, but he's taking that time. Oh, now, no, he's put away the exchange window. I expect now that he has embraced it. Oh, look at this. Okay. Clever. We're going for this, which at least gets you 5 points, and it creates a little bit of something for Brian to think about. That being said, and there we do see Phil draws a P, so he's going to be able to play Zip and Zulu, which will score quite well. But I think, as I suggested, Brian all over it. He's going to waste no time. He has the L for Lulu. There is no great reason for him to be fearful here. I guess he could potentially get hit without bingos after this, but they do not seem likely. The pool, from Brian's perspective, has very, very weak tiles, including 4 Is and 2 As. And Fibril is going to be the play for Brian, going up by 92 points. And yeah, we can see that Phil, with the 3 Is already on his rack, that is not going to get the job done with such a huge deficit. You would need some kind of miraculous bingo here, and one does not exist. Zip, that being said, Zip is still going to hit super hard, but it leaves Phil with very tough tiles. As we'll go back to Brian here. And it's going to be a very hard-fought win for Brian Poe in this game. Very tough one for Phil Robertshaw, for sure. I feel like we could point to any of several extremely rough draws where if he would have not had any of those, it would be a very different game. But Brian's playing fantastically as well. I don't want to take anything away from him, as we're going to close out this game in just a moment. Goat is the play there alongside the letters engroaned as we just head to the end of the game. Nice play here. Wow, an outplay. Who saw that coming? This is going to make things actually surprisingly close. It's not going to decide the game. Brian is still going to win solidly here. But I'm going to go ahead and turn my audio on Zoom again. We're getting close game after close game between you two. Everybody is enjoying watching. It's been great. But yeah, Bill, whenever you're ready, you can get game 4 rolling. And unless the two of you have any urgent break need. Seems not. So unless you say otherwise, I'm just going to assume, Phil, whenever you're ready, you can get started, and we'll roll into game 4. All right. Signing off onto Zoom for them. Saving this game here. So, yeah. These have been great games. Let me reset that clock for Phil. Oh, let me get it to 20 and try not to close my timer this time. There we go. All right, so Phil underway here. Not a great rack for him. Brian waiting to respond. Let me give him his star. Brian moving up to 2 wins. So Phil needing to win both of the next 2 games to avoid elimination here. Let me start a new game as well. And we will get set here. So not the opening draw necessarily that Phil would have hoped for. I'm sure he would have liked to start the game. Yeah, timer is clicking. I guess I could mute that. I think I can mute this. Yeah, I think I should mute it. That should work. Sorry for the clicking, if that's been bothering anybody. Not sure. Also, I'm really curious. I don't see any evidence that this stream is like up on Facebook at all. So that's something we'll have to see afterwards. All right, Phil is going to go ahead and potentially exchange tiles here. That frankly seems reasonable. The only thing I would think about is, do I want to play a G? Do I want to keep the H on my exchange? But Phil just going for the E, and he gets a blank for his efforts here. And over to Brian now. So Brian unexpectedly getting the first move of the game and draws a Z. Of course, with that Z in hand, you are going to want to try to find a 5-letter word or longer that puts a Z in this spot or puts a Z in this spot, but none exists here. So it's going to be tough. Is he going to play shorter and just play Z here? Tack another E on. Nope, he's going to play short. Keep the board a little bit tougher for Phil to work with, sacrificing a few points while he's at it. This is a very reasonable choice. There are a lot of similar options. He could have played E-Zine. He could have played ZT with an E. A lot of similar choices there. Don't really have a super strong preference. And it is back over to Phil. So again, Phil needs the win here to prolong the match. Not a great draw for Brian, by the way, keeping Unite as his leave. He draws AE. That's going to be tough to navigate. And I definitely expect Phil to play something underlapping here. I feel like there's no other... I mean, I guess you could think about something, putting an E here, going down. But there isn't really a great word to do that with. Just JOE feels a little risky, setting up the obscure S hook in the Collins lexicon here. I think just something like FOH seems okay. It feels a little bit crazy to not play the J here when you have the blank in hand. And I do apologize for the flickering, folks. Definitely going to be top on my agenda to see if we can fix. But, yeah, we'll just have to see. Oh, let's see what he's going with. Ooh, even tighter. So even tighter than FOH was just of here. Oh, okay. He's going a little further. So he plays hoof. So this, in a vacuum, definitely seems like a solid option. However, it opens up a triple in a way that most other plays do not. So it is a play that Phil is making in full knowledge that I'm going to be okay with this because I've got a blank. And if Brian plays something here, it's going to open the board up more for me, which is good for me with a blank. That being said, would have been very possible to see playing a little bit tighter to reduce Brian's options, especially after he just plays Z-E. I might want to try to keep things as tight as possible, but maybe playing this, maybe this is the exact time when you want to play hoof, because this does indicate maybe lower point tiles in reserve or good bingo tiles in reserve. So maybe what you're expecting after this is if Brian has a bingo, it's very unlikely to play here. It's probably playing here or here, and then you get the benefit of the spot you just opened up. So there's a lot that would go into the logic of that play. In the meantime, I'll start this timer up. And I do feel like it's either playing... You know what's crazy? I was thinking it has to be... Oh, sorry. It has to be a play here, but there's actually better plays, better scoring plays. If you're going to play a 5-letter word, this is it. This is the play to go with, which is surprising because you would think this would be the spot, right? It's a triple. But actually, with all these low point tiles, the triple isn't really doing that much for them. The underlaps, getting the H and the Z. And Brian's going to go ahead and play Hugh anyway, keeping the best bingo leave that he can possibly get. Makes sense. And he's drawn the X, which actually is he'll have plays with it too if they don't get blocked. So, nice idea. A couple different ways to go. We know he saw his higher scoring play of Tuina and opted for the play that gives him bingos more often, which I think those plays are really close, really, really close. So more high-level play here by the players. Phil with JKW on the rack. Definitely think, if possible, he's going to want to use 2 of those. Make sure I have his board up. And I think Jink looks very strong to me for a number of reasons. 1, gets rid of 2 of those tiles. 2, leaves the W. Maybe you like having that sometimes, right? Who knows? Maybe you like having this W, playing something with other overlaps. And the 3rd is it really doesn't open that much. The J has no letters here. It's hard to do that much through this J. And it looks like that's what Phil is going to do. I fully approve of this one, leaving EW blank. This seems very, very solid to me. And we'll see what he draws. Oof. Not a horrible draw, but not a great one either. With that U in particular, you hate to see that to go alongside your whichever I just said, UW, whichever one I didn't say. So, yeah, so Brian is going to reap the benefits of that X spot here. 0 for 52. Seems really, really good. Does Phil have, like, unwoman, I think, is a verb. So I don't think that's going to help him. But I wonder... It looks like he might maybe have some... Oh, just unmewing through that I, of course. Yeah, unmewing. So with these letters, as an experienced player, if you study the dictionary a lot, when you have WU on your rack, you're going to learn to recognize a lot of the really common words that contain those letters, and unmew is exactly such a word. When you have these letters, this word jumps out. So I definitely think Phil has already likely identified this as an option. Maybe he's only seen unmew and he's looking where to play it, and then he's going to realize I have this I, and it's going to let me bingo, which is a huge win. This is the value of the blank, right? What makes the blank so good? It can turn these racks into a bingo, right? UWNN. That should not be a very good rack, but thanks to the blank, you're turning those clunky tiles into 70 points. So I fully expect that's what we're going to see. There it goes. And look at that draw for Brian. Not so hot. This is going to be tough. So a lot hinges on this draw for Phil. Could Phil draw a B and play something? Could he draw another bingo? Doesn't look like it exactly. Oh, Uveitic, look at that. No time wasted. See, that is such a good play. Hold on. I didn't even run Brian's clock on that. So unmuting for 70. Great play. And Uveitic for 32. The best play for Brian by a mile there. Just cleaning off all of that clunk at once. So this is like, this is this situation, right, where Scrabble can be infuriating sometimes when you get racks that have U, I, V on them. But actually, where players like this shine is, hold on, we're getting some experimentation here. Brian trying Fronder, not valid. Might as well give it a shot. Start Phil's clock here. But yeah, the difference between finding Uveitic right there and not finding it is so huge. You're basically doomed to like several turns of clearing off that clunk from your rack if you don't know and find that word. And admittedly, that is a tough word to spot. And I definitely respect anybody watching that says, oh my God, I would never find that word. But that is what makes these players at that next level. Yeah, they know all these bingos and crazy words. Uveitic is a 7-letter word as well, but it wasn't a bingo here. And it's plays like that these players find so consistently. So those words are the words with UV in them, right? This is a good lesson. We just saw 2 words with UV and UW in them that are pretty much automatic finds for players at this level because those letters are so bad that you need to know as many words as possible with them to get them off the rack as quickly as possible. It's going to help your game so much if you know words like that. So great plays there. Phil with a tough turn here. Phil has what feels like a good nucleus of bingo tiles, but there is no bingo available. It's not a great board for bingoing either. One of the things that I encourage people to do when you're trying to evaluate, is this an open board or a closed board? Well, one of my tests that I do is if I had a 7-letter word ending in S, where would that word go? That's like a 7-letter word ending in S. That's the most common type of bingo that you can get. Something ending in ERS or IES, whatever it may be. There is really no good place to get a play like that here. And that makes me feel like this board is quite closed. As Phil goes ahead and plays glue here for 18, saving a relatively balanced leave. He's keeping the D, which hooks onto Hewed potentially. So some merit to that. There were overlapping plays on top of Unmute that scored a little bit better and reached a little bit deeper into the bag, though. So Glue scored 18, but a play like OG'd would have scored 28 and used up a little bit more tiles from Phil's rack. Maybe he's okay with that because he wants to keep a better nucleus of bingo tiles on the rack. So there's definitely some benefit to this. But let's see. Let's see if Phil will get the next bingo down. He's definitely pushing in that direction. And a nice play here, the Hewer hook. This looks like a very solid way for Brian to score a solid number of points, which is not that easy, on this board with no really good triples open, no good scoring combinations open. 31 points is actually surprisingly very solid for Brian to get there. So I like that choice by him for sure. And it's an even game again. What else is new? What else is new? For the fourth straight time, the two players are knotted up very, very close in the early going of a game. I should definitely emphasize that we are getting spoiled. Scrabble isn't like this, right? There are blowouts sometimes, one way or another, but with really strong players like this, if the tiles just cooperate even a little bit, they'll find a way to keep things close. That's exactly what we've gotten to see on this match so far, so I'm very grateful to both of them for that. And yeah, Phil getting closer, marching closer to a bingo, but I just worry a little bit that unless he draws into a bingo starting with S, then he's fine, right? He can draw into a bingo starting with S in a couple spots, but if he draws into a bingo ending in S, what then? Trickier. So we'll see. I think in a vacuum, something like OY, Oni here, scores well, but it gives overlaps. It gives kind of scary looking overlaps in response, and you only have to sacrifice 1 point to play Yo here, so maybe that's worth it. Oh, even better. This looks even more defensive. Ayot. Phil considering playing Yo. Okay, he's going to go ahead and do that, and he draws into 7-letter words starting with S. That was key for him. Now he's going to have bingos in several different spots on the board. That's a big, big swing for him. Brian immediately finding a great play with 6 consonants and 1 vowel. He's been able to use 5 of his letters and play Drant on top of Yo, making some very nice overlaps. Really, really nice play there. And no time wasted for Phil to hammer the double-double of Digester or 82. So let me get caught up here. Definitely worth a thought of potentially playing a word with Zex. It only scores 1 fewer than Digester, but this has some other positional benefits. It's much harder to play an 8 after Digester, whereas if you play your word with Zex, there are many, many more lanes wide open on the bottom of the board. So that makes a lot of sense from Phil's perspective. So Phil goes up by a lot, but as you can see, Brian's drawn the first blank. And this is... So yeah, this is actually... The benefits of playing Digester are very clear because this is the only bingo that Brian has. I'm very impressed that he's been able to feel confident enough to even consider playing this here. I would be looking longer, but this is a very good job by him. This is the only playable bingo. And that goes back to Phil's choice of Digester being so much more defensive. It's just a way more defensive play. And he reaps the benefits of it as Brian only scoring in the 60s for his bingo when it could have been in the 70s or more after playing something with Zex here. So, all right, over to Phil. They're playing fast, so I've somewhat fallen behind on the timer. And make sure I'm catching up on everybody's chats here. But yeah, this is another, I'll start it now. Another close game. Phil's up by 7. He has the B. I mentioned it before. After the play of O by Brian, the B gained a lot of value temporarily. That value then was somewhat sapped away by the C of Uveitic. No hooks can go all the way down, right? So the B going down would have been great. But here on this exact rack for Phil, I think just playing, I feel like from this rack, you want to play at least one A and you want to play your B. And just Bay here, thankfully, our wonderful newly added word. That feels like exactly what's called for here, but the problem is, if I'm Phil, I definitely hate leaving this area of the board wide open. I feel like, can I afford to do that? But he's going to go ahead and do it, and I think it's 100% warranted. So a good play, 33 points with just the B and the A. As, hold on, let's just see. Brian, I thought he was getting set to exchange, but he's going to play Spill and hope for some better things for that Q. I feel like that makes a lot of sense to me. You could potentially, look at that. One of the great things about this is you could maybe draw the U or the A, right? So Brian, on his play of Spill, he left DMQ. And if he draws an A, he is now threatening QAID here, in addition to quit if he draws the U. Of course, the U is great to pair with the Q, but really, really nice job by Brian there to clearly he is thinking, if I draw the A, I'm also potentially in business with this Q, which is otherwise difficult to play. So, hey, I'm impressed. These players are playing really well. As people are saying in the chat, I fully agree. It's been a great match. Exactly the sort that we hope when you get such really good players together. They're making it happen for us for sure. So, okay. If you're Phil, you're up by 10 going into this turn. It's tempting to feel like, geez, I have to bingo, right? But actually, you're up by 10 plus whatever you're going to get for your next move. So I feel like if I'm Phil, I'm looking into this unseen pool and I'm trying to think, what are the dangers? What do I need to worry about? Of course, there are some good bingo tiles and you can get hit with bingos through Spill, the letters of Spill. But other than that, it's hard to bingo on this board. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to bingo through an I or an L. The QU combination or QAID is similarly scary. I would definitely be a little worried about that. So you could potentially see, as Phil maybe getting set to play Pia, this is going to give him good chances to get a bingo, but he's going to need it because Brian is going to hammer Cade down very quickly after this. And I just want to say, as he commits this play, PAISE is kind of tempting here to score 29 points and block off that Q. And we know Brian's going to play that, as you can see. Blam, down it goes. And yeah, a huge swing there. So Pia in the upper side of the board definitely results in a solid number of bingos for Phil. But yeah, a lot of threats to be aware of on that board. And maybe blocking off that QU possibility, is that something that a human being could be expected to see? Maybe. It's tough. It's very tough. So Phil now in some trouble after that Q play comes down. Great job by Brian. I just want to give him a huge shout out for playing Spill so quickly. He clearly knew with the D in reserve he had good chances of playing in this spot. It's impressive. Impressive play. So Phil in a bind now, but he has good bingo tiles, which is what he's been prioritizing on a couple of the plays here. Certainly his play of Pia, trying to keep a nice balanced leave. So could we see him? He's going to play off one of his eyes almost certainly. Are we going to see him play something like hip, setting up another spot, and then try to draw something through those same letters? Maybe. Maybe that is what we see. So Brian with a solid lead now after that big bingo-like score of Cade. It scored 69 points. That's essentially a bingo, a solid scoring bingo. And Phil is very likely to need a bingo of his own to get back in this. He does have the S. That's good. But again, we do our little test of the S. Is there an obvious place to end a bingo with an S? Well, if you have the right overlaps here, maybe, but there's no good hook to do that. So he may continue to feel that he has to be proactive to open up a spot like that. looks like he's getting set to play hide here, which this could be very much warranted at this score. Very aggressive, but also scores quite well, opening up the top of the board, trying to draw again into these bingos here, but you have an even more salient threat. I would certainly be worried after a play like this that it's very punishable. You can definitely get hit with big plays on top here. And if that is Phil's choice, we will see mercy from Brian, showing no mercy, in fact. So Phil taking a different, much safer tack if he is going to play GHI here. That looks a little bit safer. But he is going to go back around to playing this, which this has some merit. This is a much more active, aggressive type of opening play. He has a G in reserve as well. And a terrible draw for him. No bingos, almost certainly. I don't believe. Close to like Viliagos or something, but not quite. So I definitely expect that Brian takes a look at the unseen tiles here. I think he's going to find mercy relatively quickly, and that is going to score very, very well at that top part of the board. And, yeah, see, he just has to slide him over. Yep, there we go. So when this comes down, 55 points. This is the downside risk of a play like hide. Even if you draw into a bingo there, if you're Phil, you're getting hit so hard that sometimes even your bingos are going to make it tough, right? When you get those bingos down, unless you get a really, really big one, it might not even be enough. Still, I don't quibble with it that much. He needed to make a very active opening play, and nothing else seems obviously better. So Phil's going to have to buckle down here. This is it. Match on the line. Brian's up 2-1. Phil's got to find a way to somehow claw his way to a bingo, and also make sure it scores enough here to really threaten Brian, whose lead is growing after some very, very nice plays. Mercy, Cade before it, and Spill before. That's a 3-turn sequence of like 50 points per turn. So, I think Brian is testing ownables. Why not? Why not test it? You can. Snowable, ownables. All of these are possible. So, yeah, I'm not sure what Phil is supposed to do here. There are enough tiles in the bag that he can, are you looking at playing something like Viga or Vagi in this spot purely to score a lot of points and try to draw into some bingos here that are tough for Brian to block productively? Maybe. You might just need the points here to continue to keep this game close. If you fish too aggressively and play too few a number of points, you can just get outscored here too easily. So there has to be a need to balance bingo chances and score here. So, yeah, best way to do that, not sure. I think maybe playing something like this is too blocky. I think you need this area of the board untouched. I know this keeps the V, but I might prefer playing Figo here, even though I hate keeping the V here. But you're going to hate something about your move if you're Phil. That's Scrabble for you. So, tough situation. Brian's got the W. The W, sometimes a tile we don't like to see. Other times we absolutely do like to see it. And here he's very happy to have it because plays here are going to score quite well and balance his rack. So good situation to be if you're Brian, but he has very much earned this with some good play on his part to get into this type of situation. So yeah, this is like really high level stuff. Hopefully everybody out there is enjoying. I will continue to apologize for the flickering situation. And he's going to go ahead and play Vega for 30. I really feel like this is a sensible play. You have to keep things close. Yeah, it does cut down a little bit on your real estate to play bingos somewhere on this board, but you need your bingos to actually matter when you hit them. So Tootsie on the rack for Phil. Not sure where that's going to fit. Don't think there's anything through the L, which is really what he needs. Lootiest. Not a word. So I'm looking around. It seems like Phil, maybe it's okay because he's going to need to, make some kind of a fishing play somewhere and try to draw something. But I just think Brian is going to be in very, very good shape here if he just dumps off that W. Brian could even draw into a bingo of his own, right? Wouldn't that make things simple? He has pretty good bingo tiles, including the B. You don't normally think of the B as a good bingo tile, but with these L's open, it gains a big boost in, is the B a good bingo tile? Maybe much better here if you just play off W, O, or AW, or something like that. Keeping the B is going to lead to more bingos than usual for sure. So, Brian, is it snowable weather? Not anymore. Hello, Josh. I'm so glad that we've gotten through our extremely snowy period and the sun is shining out here in the east coast of the U.S. Hopefully everybody's having a nice evening in the UK, where I assume most of the viewership is coming from. Just want to thank the ABSP as well for welcoming me aboard the stream. And for being so good to work with from a Scopely perspective to get this tournament and these matches set up. Thank you very much, ABSP. But it's been a real treat watching these two play. So Brian needing to put the finishing touches on this. He is, look at this. He's going to go ahead and just put it all on black, potentially, and just go for it right now, potentially. I'm not sure about this. This is definitely going to block a lot of bingos here, but in the rare cases that Phil does find a way to fit one on the board, it will always win after this because it empties the bag and doesn't score very well. I also think a nice feature of this play is normally you would say, oh crap, this opens up the triple. That's kind of bad. But from Brian's perspective, all of these tiles are low pointers. There's no real major threat. You see him looking in the tile bag, realizing there is no big threat that can play down here productively, right? If there was a big scoring tile that would play in this spot, you could regret this play badly, but there is none. So that's a great recognition on Brian's part. So there are a lot of good things about this play. Maybe I'm coming around to it. I wonder, what are you getting hit with, right? You're getting hit with stuff through LE. Sorry, LA, LE. Leariest, right? You're going to lose to all of that stuff, but would you lose to all of that stuff anyway if you just play OW? And that's going to be the play. Sewable, emptying the bag. And that's going to do it if Phil does not have a playable bingo right now. He's going to be down by too much. And what we know, sitting in the booth, it's you all out there watching along, he does not have one. So Brian, very bravely and potentially correctly, emptying the bag, denying Phil another chance to fish for a game, not necessarily winning bingo, but a game evening bingo. And he's basically saying, if you got it, if you have it through this I or through this L, then congratulations, you win the game. But if you don't, I win the match. So nicely reasoned. Definitely going to block a lot of bingos there. And Brian now realizing that he is going to be winning this match. And unlike over the board Scrabble, where you could potentially say, well, maybe Brian will play some kind of crazy phony by accident. Not this time. Not playing on this app. You can only play words that are in the dictionary. You are not permitted yet. We don't have any game modes yet that permit you to play words that aren't in the dictionary. That could be coming, especially when we have synchronous games in the app. But for now, can't hang your hat on that if you're Phil. You got to find a bingo now, or that's it. Ooh, Deuteron. Very nice. That's really cool. So potentially bingos with overlaps here. Maybe there were some others that fit down there as well. That could have been cool. I wonder if there was anything like question or something. Could you get hit with question? Maybe. That might have been possibly available. But those are those are tough. Those are going to be very specific fits, and leaving the L's and I's of spill completely untouched with a different type of play would definitely have led to many, many more bingos for Phil. So Phil's clock is dwindling. I know I've probably kind of messed with the clocks enough. We're going to do sort of, it's thankfully in this situation, it is purely academic. This is definitely Brian's game. Here, Phil's going to go ahead and play Soot. There we go. We'll make sure that we let that clock go back to Brian. So Soot for 21. And I think Brian's got an outplay, which he's going to play quickly. Urena's for 24. And there we go. Let's give Brian his third star here. I'll turn my sound on Zoom again. And that was a really hard-fought win and an amazing match. 4 incredibly close games between the two of you. And people in the YouTube chat are saying they really loved watching both of you play. So, not sure if we want to do any quick wrap up of the games or what. It's up to you. How was that? How painful of an experience? Well, we can talk about whether it was a painful experience after. But yeah, now you guys can review the games on the game review and see that you really didn't miss anything serious. It was a lot of great plays by both of you. So, hey, Phil.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I was trying to play with a real board as well because I find my board vision is better when it's not on the screen, but I was doing both, and yeah, maybe I don't know if that helped or not.
Well, you
Yeah,
missed very
really,
little.
really, really tough games. I think tied was probably a mistake in the last game. It was a bit too open, but I was in a bind and I felt like I had to try and make something happen.
Yeah, I think we definitely agreed with the general logic behind some of the more board opening plays, but I definitely think Brian made a number of fantastic plays as well. Definitely thought Spill leaving QD was very, very clever. That's just a great recognition on Brian's part. So it was just a really well played match. And yeah, so Brian, you're going to be moving on to face the winner of Harshan versus Lukeman on Wednesday. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited to the final, and it's always a thrilling experience to play against Phil. He gave me very tough games. I quite like the format and the seriousness of the app. I think it quite simulates quite close to an actual game. And of course, I like trying phonies.
Yes, at some point we're going to try to have that in the app, but yeah, definitely appreciate that. Yeah, this is going to be, I think it's going to be a little more what tournament players are hoping for in terms of the app experience. And yeah, we're just really thrilled that you both gave us 4 amazing games. So commiserations, Phil, well played, and congratulations, Brian. You'll be moving on. But yeah, with that, we're at the 3-hour mark. I recognize it's kind of late for both of you over in the UK. So I'll let the two of you go, and we'll be in touch, Brian, about when you'll hop on the stream next week. But yeah, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut to my commentator view here, and just say thank you, everybody out there, for watching. And we'll be back on Wednesday, hopefully, with this flickering issue fixed, with Harshan Lamabadu versus Lukman Owolabi. The winner of that match will face Brian Poe in the finals next week. So thanks, everybody, once again for watching, and see you on Wednesday with more Scrabble action here. Just a quick final plug. If you aren't sold yet and you're based out of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, or the Philippines, you can try this app right now. And if you're from North America or anywhere else, just have to sit tight a little bit longer before you can get your hands on our new Scrabble app. So with that, thanks, everybody.